Welcome to the Embodying the Energy Shifts webinar. Thank you for those who are going to be tuning in now and who might drop in throughout the session. There will be a Q&A at the end, and also welcome to all those who have purchased tickets to watch at another stage. Regardless of whether you're watching now or not, you will also receive a full recording of the webinar along with some worksheets so that you can reflect in hindsight and go along with it. I really feel that this work is extremely vital. The word vital means important and also means vital, vitality. It's a key life source that we are tapping into now. I really love the fact through this thing, the internet, we get to reach out to people all around the world. And what it's enabling us to do at this particular time is to intersect and cross-pollinate a lot of modalities, a lot of lineages, a lot of learnings. I think we're closer now than ever to the possibility of a true worldwide nation, one nation. And the interesting thing politically, when you talk about one nation, particularly in Australia, one nation is actually quite a right-wing idea, which can bring in some conservative ideas. So let's not worry too much about the language. It can be co-opted to mean many things. What I'm talking about is harmony, mutual respect, integration, and understanding the commonality of being part of humankind. So a commonality that we all have is that we have a body. And I think that embodiment is a great way to ground in a lot of the esoteric nature of this human condition. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. So that's in my opinion, how I've decoded some meaning in existence. And so the human body, the tangible, the tactile, is a simplification. It's a distilling down. It's a way to ground all of these heady concepts. Even our language, we talk about things being heady. It's like up or head in the clouds, or it's beyond me, all this kind of up here idea. So when we bring in embodied practices, it enables us to actually ground, bring it down, which is so important when we look at things like transcendental or enlightenment, illumination, rising up, a bridge between worlds, ascending. We often think of this rising up and coming out of our body, going from our lower chakras up into this divine bliss, euphoria, into enchantment, into surrender to the mystery. But equally, I believe that the other practice, the descending path, is also important. Coming down into our body, coming into the womb space, allowing heaven to be on earth, allowing ourselves to be channels and come down and make sense on a human scale. Because we understand, I believe, beyond our ability to comprehend. Or, these are just words. We have access to a body of knowledge through big data, through Google, through our past records of ancient cultures, through our ability to predict the future. We've got such a great knowledge, and yet do we have understanding? Do we have a physical integration of the potential? It's very overwhelming to think that we are billions and billions of people strong on this planet, to think of all the environmental damage we're doing, to think of all the personal damage, the psychological damage. What can one person do? And so for me, embodiment brings it down to our senses so that it can make sense. The poetry of I'm part of the human race can never be directly sensed. It is beyond my sight to see everyone, beyond my ears to hear everyone. And so embodiment practices bring us down to a subjective reality. It's my reality, it's what I perceive. And through those practices, I can start to integrate with bigger concepts on a human scale, day by day, through my personal practice, sense by sense, and allow what's beyond me to come into my body. So that's the framing for this entire session. It's about how to embody the energy shifts. And it's about sharing our personal practices, which we'll go into a little bit now, give you a background briefly, in a practical way. If you've got a notepad and pen, that's great. Just note down things that are doable, things you can actually replicate on a daily basis. And that is the way that we can actually bring about a lifestyle that is of high quality. I don't want this to be something we do on the weekend or something we save up for and we go away to Bali or to some like Indian ashram. once a year or less as some kind of integrative process. This is something that we can have a quality of life with every single day. So thank you for stepping into the space with us, and take this as important. Dispel any connotations of my language which don't resonate with you. These are just words. It's an attempt to translate what's in me out into a common language for you then to decode and take into yourself. The point is what's real to you, what's important to you, and please make it vital. Please make it relate to your life. Please make it relevant to what you are doing. We obviously lead different lives. We have different problems and solutions. We have different genius set. When I look at the word genius, it means the spirit that was attendant upon your birth, the thing you were born to do. And we're all born in different circumstances, and we all have a different set of skills and predispositions. But there is a relevance to embodiment practices. There's a commonality in our physiology, in our organs, in our breath, in these elements of earth, of water, of fire, of wood. And I really believe there's a universality to that. So please make it vital and relevant to you. Decode what I'm saying. Chuck out the rubbish, but keep the gold. And this is important. You are stepping in on something that is a journey. This is your journey. And I fully honor anyone who's stepping into the space, because that is the degree of devotion and dedication and intensity. I'll totally admit it's intense, but that's because this is life. This is our chance to actually rip off the age-old imposition of shoulds and should nots, the age-old cultural suffocation and suppression, the age-old indoctrination, and the insulation between us and those things which we have an innate right to, like our own bodies. You know, I think for too long we need to refer to medical practitioners, to qualified psychiatrists and psychologists, or I think the age of the guru is over. We don't necessarily deify these human beings and have the arrogance to say you are an embodiment of the divine, or any symbol or any book. We are no longer allowing these human-made things, these human constructs, to be arrogant enough to say, I am a God, I am above you, I am realized. Instead, we have the human fallibility to say those are just symbols representing something greater, and that greater is all around us in nature. It is inseparable from you. You are born into it. You have an innate right to connect with nature, to connect with source, to have a spiritual practice that is your own. There is nothing intervening. There is no permission you need to get. There is no secret memberships pass to your own life. And that is why I'm passionate about it. That is why I do this day in, day out. And I love to see us fumbling through it, making a mistake, doing something irreverent, messing up a bit, and having the humility to understand we are not masters yet, but to actually get involved with your own body. Make this your own. Do it yourself. And there is an innate wisdom in the body which will be your compass as to if it's right or it's wrong. And through repetition, gently, we start to become familiar and intimate with our bodies enough that we actually listen to the language of the body. We can actually hear our stomach telling us if we should eat or drink this way. We can feel into the shifts in our brain. We start to notice the shifts in our central nervous system when we release or we contract. And this beautiful relationship with our organs and our bodies simply comes through doing again and again and again. And gently we learn the language of ourselves. So there we go. That's enough philosophy from me for now. Let's get into the embodiment. We'll do a brief introduction of about ourselves and what we bring through. And then we're going to get into some embodied practices which will help you navigate whatever energy shifts you might be engaged in at the moment. So I'll hand it over to you, brother. Thank you so much for being here. Beautiful respect. Tell us a bit about your relationship with embodiment.
So yeah, martial arts is a huge aspect of what that embodiment is for me, and that now for me is what I would say is Tai Chi, really, you know, Tai Chi, yoga, Qigong, these kinds of practices. So it started out early for me, you know, like as a child, we generally have that nature to be in our body and really be embodied. And as I progressed, I started to slip into my head. I used to stutter. I had difficulties, insecurities early on as a young child, and I started to realize that martial arts was really fulfilling that space, was really helping me be in my body and be in myself and give me confidence. And so that led me into wanting to provide this for others, and that's where I stepped into. I mean, I wanted to be a martial arts teacher. That was it. And my martial arts teacher said, "You're not going to be a martial arts teacher." And I was like, "Well, yes, I am." And he was like, "No, you're not." And I was going, "What?" He was more or less saying that this is a difficult area to work in. So then I searched for other areas, and something that was different but the same was healing for me. I started Chinese medicine at the age of 17. I went into Chinese medicine school and started acupuncture, herbal medicine, massage, Chinese massage, cupping, gua sha, which is a scraping technique where you're bloodletting, and all these techniques to really help us apply the right medicine for an individual. And then that led me led me overseas, where I deepened my practice of Tai Chi, Qigong, and even yoga. I actually originally went to study Chinese yoga. Was teaching English at the same time, as well as deepening my practice of Chinese medicine. Yeah. And then I came back and took on Māori medicine, seeing the importance of Māori medicine and how we have so many different perspectives, and there are certain perspectives that work better on particular people, particular cultures, or different conditions, or what have you, or environments for that. So then I started to realize that by bringing all the different medicines together, that it's actually like a big, massive kit that we're able to really just put your hand in and pull something out to apply it. I mean, acupuncture can be used in all areas, from mental, physical, and spiritual, but it does have more of a physical influence because it's this. You could consider it the same as massage, except you don't have the mauling and the touching aspect. It's just put the needle in, which has the same concept of intention. It has physical contact, but we just don't need to work so hard. We can just leave the needle, and the needle continues to do what the massage would do, and rest and relax. So all of the different applications can be applied to any aspect of the body, but some are better than others. So that's really good to have a big basket to be able to provide and use it accordingly. Some people come in and say, "I cannot do acupuncture." So then you provide massage or herbs. Some people hate touch. So that's why it's all about being able to know what's the best approach for this person. Awesome. And that's why I call myself a health and medicine facilitator, not to have the connotation of being bound, because even when I called myself a Chinese medicine specialist, people would say, "Oh, you're an acupuncturist," or they're always trying to box you into this space. I would like to say that I practice medicine.
Beautiful. Thank you. So we're going to be giving you some of those medicine tools right now. I'm going to bow to you. Mataora is going to go and prepare off camera here, and I'm going to take you guys through the first session, but that gives you a little bit of idea of where you've been and such a wealth of knowledge. I'm really so excited to be traveling with you, brother.
Awesome.
Thank you, brother. Cool. So let us begin. We already have begun, of course, starting with the mind. So I just want you all now to drop in to your bodies. I want you to feel yourself arriving into the space that you are currently in. I want you to feel your breath leading you in to the lower dantian, into your belly, your sacral chakra, your womb space, allowing your hips to open, allowing your anus to open, allowing your sex organs to be activated through your attention. Where your attention goes, energy flows. The mind is extremely powerful to guide our physiological responses. So breathing in and feeling a release at the same time. You might want to place a hand on your heart, a hand on your womb. And just feel a gentleness, a gratitude. Placing the tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth to complete an energetic circle. And as we breathe in, filling ourselves, feeling the sensation of energy, and on the exhale, just let out a little sigh or a sound. Feeling a softening, letting go, trusting the body's natural wisdom that it always wants to integrate, wants flow, and wants balance, wants harmony. If we just stop trying to control everything and restrict everything. For this first segment, I'm going to be taking us through allowing archetypes, allowing your body to take on the form and shape of different entities, of different identities, of different emotions, of different energies. Allow yourself to play a role in your body for the reason that these stereotypes are beautiful packages which we have assembled by witnessing humanity and going, oh, okay, so there's a beast. That beast is really connected with their root. That beast doesn't care. That beast is rude. That beast is open. That beast is savage. That beast is strong. It protects itself. So it's a package. This archetype is an assembly of a lot of characteristics which go together. And so I love to be the sacred clown. Through physical theater and through art therapy, through using theater as a ritual process, I welcome the weird. I welcome the gross, I welcome the genius, I welcome the naive, the silly, the kooky, because it's only when we start to open up the taboo that I believe we can actually mine or receive the wisdom. When we compartmentalize things, it's like when I see people really anti things. I say, no, please, just tell me what you're for. Don't complain about things you're against, because that shoves things away from you. Religion, for example, we are so divided and we are scared of being associated. We might not want to sit on a train and read, I don't know, the Quran, or read a Bible, or read Dianetics, or read, Buddhism is kind of like a safe one. Most people are like, yeah, cool, you do yoga, Buddhist, everyone likes that. But we might not want to be associated with a particular text. So we just close that, we put that on the shelf. But can you think of all the wisdom in any of these texts which we isolate from ourselves because we're not willing to open up to them? I'm not saying they're all right, but they're definitely not all wrong. There's a lot of earnest attempts at education and passing on the stories and the song lines through these. So similarly with archetypes, just because you think of yourself as elegant, don't deny your beast. Just because you think of yourself as sensible, don't deny your poet. Just because you think yourself as peace-loving, don't deny the warrior. Just because you think yourself as serving, don't deny your king or queen or royal or executive. And these are the archetypes that I'm going to work you through right now. I'm just going to check on the timepiece. I'm going to set an increment of 15 minutes a piece. And we're going to refresh. Mataora and I are going to tap in, tap out, tag team every 15 minutes. So I'm setting the timer now for 15 minutes from now. And away we go. So welcome to the circus of yourself. You can do this in your own time. If you're watching at home, you can turn off your video camera if you don't want to be watched. If you're watching the recording, you're free. No one's watching. So dance like no one's watching, as they say. I'm going to move my mat out of the way. I'm going to move this camera back a bit so I've got some space to move with y'all. Awesome. Aroha in the background. Mari wait for love. We've got Buddha, my homie, in the corner. We are now beginning our practice. So if you want to tap into the beast, this is the archetype we're working with right now. What does the beast feel like? How does it feel to breathe down into your root? Do we allow ourselves to even connect with our root, with our base? Often if you're doing energetic practices, we are swimming with emotion. If you're doing emotional release, if you've just had a traumatic event happen to you, if you're having some really transcendental meditation, you might be welcoming in a lot of energy. If you're doing breath work, if you're doing omming. I had one time when I had something called Tetni. I'm not sure if anyone's done breath work or done Tai Chi or Omming, where you've activated so much chi, prana, or energy in your body that actually starts to seize up. So what can happen is you can have tension around your forearms, your fingers can curl up, your mouth can sometimes get really tight, jaw, your face can tighten up. And I was in a position in New York where my body started to do that, and I was literally curled up like this on the pavement doing an Omming practice. And my friend caught up with me. I managed to call him and say, oh, something's happening to me, but I didn't want to stop because I knew I was activating a lot of energy. And he came and he showed me some breath work and some release that allows it to actually go somewhere rather than holding it all. And often we're trying to control things because we don't trust enough. So trust comes when we know we have our base intact. And that's why the root chakra and the beast is so important, because we learn that foundation. So let's just feel what it's like to squat. Feel what it's like to open your root. Feel what it's like when your breath opens up, and allow yourself to even touch. When was the last time you actually touched your own arsehole? Have you actually allowed yourself to feel your root, you feel your base? The perineum, between the genitals and the anus, this is an extremely important place for the energy of our root. Also the tailbone, the base of your spine. So just really squatting and feeling as we come up and down here into the squat. Just feeling that energy starting to come into the body, starting to open up the hips. Cool, coming onto all fours and crawling around, often feeling what it's like to activate this beast. You might want to come onto your knees and open, feeling like your back is curling. You're really activating the spine area. With all of these, if you feel your hips are actually tilting forward, you're not going to have your back pinched, but actually engage, feeling the mulaband, the root, actually applying your pelvic floor muscles and drawing it up into you. And it has this almost like this dog-like humping feeling. It's not elegant, it's not refined. But I really want you to feel whatever physical practice you're doing, push-ups, planks, squats, cat-cow, whatever it is. I want you to feel, as well as your extremities, as well as your limbs like your arms and your legs, engage your core, juice your root, juice your sacral, really feel this root energy starting to infuse your central meridian, your governing point. So we have this point coming up our spine, our governing meridian comes over our crown, ends here, and we have the central coming from below our lip, down through our vital organs, to our bladder and to our genitals. So I really want you to feel whatever you're doing, that central column is active. When you feel the emotions, allow the emotions to be there. You might want to get a pillow, and if you need to scream or shout into it. And just allow the connection, because we're talking about a 5-body system. We're talking about our spiritual body. You can rename that to your purpose, your ideas, the sentience. With our mental body, which is all the associations, the identities, the calculations. We link that with our energy body. That's the chi, that's the sensations, the ripples, the prana that's moving through our body. Our emotional body. And I define the emotional body as more like the chemical result of the energy, actually the mixing, the hormones, all these kind of things, and our physical body. So when we're doing a physical action, I want the emotions and the energy to be infused to the physical thing. So whenever you do physical practice, make sure you're allowing the other bodies to diffuse and ground down into this. So here we are. We're just going to do some repeated actions. Another nice one can be going from a push-up position into a plank position. And we're just going to go and really push and find out our limit, always engaging the core. So standing here, feeling here, coming up into a push-up position and down into a plank. up into a push-up, down into a plank. And sound is such a medicine as well. Breath, sound, movement. BSM. Breath, sound, movement. I believe that martial arts themselves can be created by us as individuals when we start to explore how to choreograph our breath with sound and movement, and you can create your own form. Holding this position, any action which allows you to meet your threshold is a gift, because our mind needs to soften. Our heart might give up, feels like, no, we're whimpering, we can't, I need to stop. But if you juice the lower three chakras, you activate your root, you activate your core, you feel the fire of resilience. I'm not giving up. I'm going to go out and say what I need to say. I'm going to declare my boundaries. I'm going to look that person in the eye and tell them my truth. I'm going to persist. I'm not going to give up on my dream. I'm going to get back up again. That kind of fire is what's going to reinvigorate you beyond your heart. When you think you just can't keep going, that primal survival, that warrior, that sexual energy too, is going to keep you going. And that's what I call the threshold release technique. So with the threshold release technique, we're coming to our limitation and we are softening. We are feeling our inner network pulsing with what we think is the most amount of charge that we can cope with. And instead of bracing against it, we actually soften and allow it to, we become a channel in this case. And a lot of the pain doesn't come from the experience, it comes from the resistance. If you are going to fight someone and they're coming with a lot of energy, if you brace against it, you can be broken. If you flow with it, you're actually a lot safer. So one practice I'd like you to write down and encourage you to do is have a cold shower daily. The way that I do this is I go into a shower. Sometimes I do it from the beginning. Sometimes I have a warm shower to begin with. And my last minute or so is a cold shower. Particularly the back of the head. So when we look at the third eye point, and this was a real revelation to me, my connotation of the third eye is not at the front, but it's at the back of the head. The place where the brain intersects with the spine, this atlas point on this vertebrae here, is literally the correlation between the divine and the human. It's when the ideas and inspiration can actually become embodied. So if you have the shower coming on the back of the head, it infuses the whole system. And don't brace against it. Tensing our shoulders, breathing quickly, all these sort of things are a resistance, and it won't give your nervous system the workout that I'm looking to get here. Instead, deep, slow breaths, releasing the tension at the back of the head, feeling the energy infuse its way down through your central nervous system, down the back, through the nerves. And the amazing thing is that the cold dissipates. It's actually not that cold. Your body warms up. The chi can actually flow. You allow all this energy to go through your body. So that's a really pivotal threshold release technique that I encourage. You can do other things like pain threshold release. I've got scarification, I've got burn marks. It was more of a ritual process, not self-harm at all. It was more just a desire to mark an occasion and actually be acquainted with the elements. But you can do pain threshold release, even just pinching and breathing through it, piercings, all these sort of things. Fasting is another one. Intermittent fasting is just generally good for the body to have a reset. But the point being, we get to a threshold. After about the first day of fasting, the body can start to panic. And it's the difference between the reaction and the response. The body will tell us something is really wrong. You need to eat now. You feel that point and you just soften through it. And you can choose when to eat. And there's amazing liberation and energy and lightness when we go beyond this resistance. So one more practice I'm going to do now, and then I'm going to hand over to Mataora, is we're going to do some fire breath. So it's pulsing our stomach, and then you're going to hold your breath. And I want you to hold your breath in a way that doesn't have tension in your face, but just feels an expansion in your belly and in your lungs. And you're going to hold your breath until you feel you have to breathe. That's your threshold. When you feel that resistance, I want you to soften and allow yourself to go for a few more seconds, 5 seconds, 10 seconds longer. And you feel the autonomy, the sovereignty, the intentionality of when you choose to breathe and respond, as opposed to when you react out of fear and lack. You're not going to drown. We're in open air, but let's just test the threshold. So fire breath, we're coming into our stomach here. On the exhale, our stomach goes in. So you're actually supporting the exhale by drawing in the belly. Pulsing the nose. Breathing in, applying Mulaband, which is root lock, drawing the sex organs and anus up into the torso, relaxing the face, relaxing the shoulders, and holding. Feeling an expansion in the torso, feeling an opening and a softening. Feeling a bliss. And when you get to your threshold, see if you can soften gently across it, opening. And then you choose when to breathe again. Awesome. And just relaxing, feeling the softening. So just to wrap up this section on the archetype of the beast, we're going to come back and down into our root. And I want you to infuse your face. I want you to be willing to look stupid, be willing to look ugly, because I think that when we are too pleasant, trying to appease others, trying to limit our natural wilderness, we are suppressing our true vitality. And so let's just get weird for a second. Let's just, all stemming from here, I want you to just roll your shoulders, roll your hips, pelvis thrusting. Allow the serpentine whip of the spine to start. Allow it to come up into the face. Get weird, get awkward, get uncomfortable, embarrass yourself. Get your hands and just start rubbing your arms, rubbing your face, sticking your tongue out, rubbing your genitals, rubbing your legs, rubbing your belly. You can get up, you can stand up and just sort of shake your hips, shake your hips, shake your chest, tap your heart, tap your solar plexus, and you can get into a ball if you want on the floor and roll yourself into a tight little ball. And then release. Breathe. One hand on the heart, one hand on the womb. Allowing some sound to come out on the exhale. Ah, okay, it's okay to be hurt. It's okay to be in pain. It's okay to be wild. It's okay to be pissed off. It's okay to be horny. It's okay to be hungry. And just allow yourself to welcome all parts of yourself in and realize that we have an inner child that just wants to be held. We have an inner beast that just wants to eat and fuck and protect its ground. We have an inner lover that just wants to exude joy and care and beauty into the world. We have an inner king or queen or executive who wants to be respected and wants to bring order to the chaos of everything. And just don't try to control all the parts of yourself, but allow them to have their time. Really give yourself time to allow the beast out to play. Allow yourself to roll on the floor. Don't play and feel your feet. To smell things. To feel your own body. To taste the ground. To walk barefoot in nature. And to look at things with wonder and interest and curiosity. Give yourself a time where you break all the rules and you just run. Get up in the middle of the night to go for a midnight walk. Sometimes maybe just eat the things that your diet prevents you from eating. And find any practice. We'll finish off with this. Find any practice that delights and excites you, and then loop it. Loop it again and again and again. It could be, a body slap. It could be a thrust. It could be a silly giggle. And just find the meditation in repetition, where you can just sit there rocking. Hey, 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 hey. Children sometimes do that. Or people with autistic tendencies who aren't limited by our usual social restraints. They find this mesmerized state, trance-like state where you repeat over and over. So find something that gives you pleasure and just repeat it again and again until the meaning is lost and you can allow the body to really infuse its wilderness into you. So that's I'll wrap up there because I've got plenty more to get through in this webinar. But find something that delights you, that you're curious about, or that gives you pleasure, and loop it again and again and again. And find the wisdom that drops in. Find your threshold, soften across it, and be open to all the wisdom in the pockets of taboo that we often restrict ourselves from. Awesome. I'm going to hand over to Mataora now. Thank you for engaging in your beast. And I'll come back in about another 15 minutes for more. Over to you, brother.
That was wonderful. Hello again, everyone. So yeah, after the rewilding there, you must be feeling really worked up, really into yourself. We're going to now drop into the realms of Māori medicine, the different aspects that we see in Māori medicine that can help you really tap in to yourself or discover new things about you if you don't know already. We all generally know body, mind, and soul. This is quite generic nowadays, but there's actually two other aspects that in Māori medicine we consider to be quite important as well, and that's social health as well, or relationship health, and then also knowledge, information and knowledge, which sits at the center of it all. Once we've got knowledge, then we can fully access these other portals, which is the body again, or physical health, the mind or mental health, and then the spirit or spiritual health, and then social health and knowledge. So these realms here are quite important realms to speak of, and you can see the importance of it instantly, the physicality of it, by catering for every digit of who we are as human beings. So within the physical realm, of course, we're looking at certain aspects now. Before I get into that, we'll just quickly talk about where it comes from. The whole concept is called Te Whare Tapawha or Te Whare Taparima, which is, I hope you can see this. Oh, not really. No, you can't. But you can see it's a house or a whare. A whare is a house in Māori. And we look at the four corners being those main struts, being physical, mental, spiritual, and then social or relationship. And then right at the center pole to the house. So you stand in the center pole of the house, and you may be glaring and looking over to only one corner. That one corner may speak well to you. If that's physical, then that would mean that you want to do something very physical, like go for a run, have a swim, do something. Then that's you answering your mental health. And often after you've acknowledged this one realm of who you are or how you enter into the house, then from there you can start to extend into the other ones, access the other ones once you've truly tapped into whatever it is. And for me, it generally is the physical. So then after I've acknowledged that corner, I can embody that corner and have the corner to my back. And once I have the corner to my back, then I can see all of the other realms, the spiritual, the mental, and the social aspect. But maybe I'm not such a physical being. Maybe other people pertain more to social interaction, that they like to find their peace, find their health and their well-being by being with people, by going to a group or going to even a concert kind of thing, or finding a group to talk to or unit to talk to. Finding another person, a practitioner, a counselor to talk to, these kinds of things. So that means as soon as they've opened that door, that corner of the house, then their back is now okay and sorted. I can put that to my back now, and then you see the other realms again opened up so that you can deepen your health and your well-being. Then maybe some people, it's the mental realm that really find restitude and relaxation and peace and health. So that may be by reading a book, by learning something, tapping into all these different aspects of the keys to being able to help you find your peace. And then there's the spiritual aspect as well. So after you've put your back to that, then again, the other realms, the other parts of the house open up to you, that you don't just see a part of the house, you become the house. And it's a reflection of who we are, our physical body being a vessel, a house. And then we step into the spiritual side. And that may be going to church, reading a prayer, doing a mantra, anything along these lines, tapping into your spirituality. And often for Māori, it would be doing prayers or karakia. And once you've found that, you put it to your back, and then you open up the house to the other aspects of who you are and how you can tap into a more altruistic or full or wholesome health. And right at the center pole, if we stand at the center pole, which is in the middle of the house, it's knowledge. And maybe it's the key for somebody that you can stand with knowledge in the center of that house, and you have access to all four corners evenly. Not being in one corner, having to travel to go to the other corners of the house to feel complete or feel a full picture. So that's the basic realms of Māori medicine, and it's so important that we acknowledge and understand what that one is for you. So I do urge you right now to take some time to really inquire and have a look. So write down those 5 things if you haven't already, which is the physical, the mental, the spiritual, the social or relationship, and then knowledge, information and knowledge. and look into which one it is that really resonates for you. Look into all of them. You might be surprised that you might have two, or there might be one that's really strong for you, and it opens the door for the other aspects. What I mean by that is that so maybe the key for me is I need to just go do some push-ups or some sit-ups or hit a punching bag or something like that. Then afterwards, I feel more relaxed and I feel calm, that I could go and have social interaction with others. Because maybe if I'm not healthy in my physical aspect, that I went directly into a social situation, then maybe I will lose control, or I'll do something aggressively, or accidentally use too much strength in that social environment, like bump somebody. You know how you can build up so much energy and pent up so much energy that sometimes you're surprised with your own strength. So those are the kinds of aspects that can help us really regulate all these different realms. So once we tap into our physical, then we can go into the social space with harmony. Maybe we feel, relax, I'm going to go sit down on the couch now and I'm going to watch some documentary or something to take information in. But it can't always take place straight away if we are feeling like, so for example, if I want to, if I'm not so much of a reader and I do not really like to study and so forth, that if someone's trying to tell me that that's what you got to do this, you got to go and study, you've got to go read books, and then it just doesn't agree with me, maybe that's a sign to say, well, maybe you should go and do the physical things first. And then after you feel that embodiment and that attachment, then you open the doors to these other aspects, not to go directly to the things that you feel uncomfortable with. First, find who you are, and then you can search from there what to do and where to go from. So that's the whole concepts of understanding your vessel or your house or your building or your makeup of who you are, and tapping into all of them to really be fulfilled beings and balanced and well diverse human beings. We have to also be able to know these spaces for other people, to be able to see not only for yourself, but to walk into a space and know, well, this person seems more like a very religious person, so we should express more spirituality to them than physicality. And that's going to help you be able to deliver, because they'll feel comfort in receiving your information for you to be able to provide what really resonates for you, however that is. So I hope that that's given you a nice, clear picture of what the realms of Māori medicine are. Maybe I can send a picture for some information and knowledge that you can see this picture that I tried to show you earlier. About the house of Māori medicine, where you can go to any of those corners and find your peace, and that should set your home comfortable and at peace.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, everyone.
And so I'd like to stay, because we'll go into the sacral and the sexuality. So looking at these archetypes I was talking about earlier, I mentioned the beast. That's allowing ourselves to be ugly, to get gritty, to connect with your earth, connect with your root chakra and the organs associated with that, allowing the taboo to be released so that we can actually allow circulation and allow connection and sensation. As we move up into the sacral space, we're looking into our sexuality still, but also our creativity, this womb space, whether you're of a male or female body, we still have this energetic center, lower dantian, this place of creation, this core area. So if you look at the vitality of, for example, womb work, my partner does a lot of work with women. It's this idea of bleeding, of coming down into the earth, and also the ascension path of receiving seed and then blossoming up and outwards. And unfortunately, we have used sex as a weapon, where there's been marauders, invaders, there's been soldiers. We've used it as a way of shutting down this space. Definitely in women, they've been retracted, they've been taught to be ashamed of periods, for it to be something, oh, that's gross, it's disgusting, all sort of thing. And there's a real revitalization right now of women who are bleeding into the earth. This red tent culture having time to correlate, to come back into this intuitive space. So our sacral is a real center for they can call it was linked to our second brain. So the second brain also involves our guts, our digestion, this kind of space down here, but it's got a lot of nerve endings. It's a plexus. It's a network or dense with nerve endings. And so if you look at our brain, that's what it is. It's a plexus, and we've got the second brain down here. And this is a different kind of knowing. It's a different kind of brain. It's not necessarily the analytical thinking, correlation, facts and figures, identities, morals. It's your own beautiful intuition. And unfortunately, that's been, and understandably, been shut down when we try to suppress a culture. We restrict the woman's voice as well, because when we look at our interconnected system, the yoni and the womb space come up and are connected to the mouth. And that's why sometimes, through our sounding and our sexual practice, it actually liberates sensation in our genitals as well. And it's also about giving voice to our intuition. So it's a correlation of this entire passage up and down throughout ourselves. So when we look at the sacral, I love the idea of freestyling, for example, and we're going to do a little freestyle exercise in a second. There's creativity, the spark, the seed. And the reason it's so important in energetic assimilation is that it's a source point. I often think of the root more like a grounding point. So you're receiving, all these downloads, all this trauma, all this energy, and we just need to earth it. It's like if you've got a lot of electrical cables, you need an earthing cable to go down into the earth. And this is when we literally can't hold it. It's just so much. We need to get into the earth, take a barefoot walk, or go into the ocean. Water is great as well to diffuse all the energy. We might need to shout or punch, but the point being, we are kind of channeling it out and beyond us. When we come up to the sacral, it's more like actually being the origin of the energy. It's actually the ability to be a source point, to give out something new, to birth a child, birth a project, to create a song, all these kind of things. So I would highly, highly encourage you this very week to put out an artistic project, to give something to the world. It doesn't matter the quality. The point is, it's like a test run of that creation system. If you wanted to write a book, think of a story, write it down, doing some scribbles as images, find an easy publishing place, like it could be Amazon to put it out. You might just want to sell a few copies to friends. You might want to make music, get your iPhone, put a little silly song down, send it to someone. Just like, let's take away the preciousness of our artistic channel and realize that there is such medicine in allowing these wavelengths. So if you look at the aesthetics, like art, the aesthetics, it's the antithesis or opposite of anesthetic. If you go to a doctor and dentist and you go, I got an anesthetic, I can't feel anymore. Well, what does the aesthetics do? It helps us feel. It enhances the sensation. And it's because there is some kind of beauty, wisdom in beauty. There's information in sunlight, in beauty, in warmth, in flow, in expression. And that transcends the mind. That's why we have song lines. It's we pass on our culture through song, through dance, through paintings. And so simply by engaging in our artistic practice, we do learn innately, we do heal, we do allow the ripples through our body and allow the connection of previously disrelated things. So coming to the other aspect of the sacral is our sexuality as well. I mean, it's root as well, and that's our sacral space. And luckily, we are moving a lot beyond the patriarchal / pornographic identification of sex as a weapon, through subjugation of people, also through performance. When we come into a sexual connection with someone, we think we have to show them we're enjoying ourselves. So I need to look like a porn star, or where it's like our power as a man is shown by how hard we can fuck. It's like we're just trying to hit the backboard in a basketball game. It's just like, how hard can I go? We've got all these parameters within which we try and operate to show there's a celebration. And it's beautiful. Often we're just trying to show that our partner's attractive and that we're having a good time, but we're so in our heads, and so we're not really in our bodies. So what I wanted to briefly chat to you about was the sexual potency for both men and women. Sublimation is a beautiful word, to become sublime. to take these things which are dense and allow them to ascend into other forms of energy. So if we're looking at men and the end game of having orgasm, how can we allow that energy to come from the genitals and be released up into our belly, up into our heart, and not necessarily just give out the semen to ejaculate, to exude this success, like, oh, we did it, yay, I came, and then to feel depleted. And this is where Taoist sexuality comes in. So maybe I'll hand over to you and just give us a summation of like the concept of the vital essence and Taoist sexuality.
Yeah, so the word sexuality often has, like you said, many different connotations, but actually for me, it just means vital force, vital energy. You know, when we're tapping into that sexuality, we feel bliss because that vital force and that vital energy is the essence of who we are, and we feel so free and ecstatic, really. So instead of using the words sexual, because unfortunately it has a lot of connotations that pull us away from the nitty-gritty, that it's vital force. Now, when we step into Taoist teachings or ancient teachings to do with sexuality, it's about leakage and not so much blockage. It's about leakage, losing energy, losing what we would call this prenatal energy, energy that we get given before we're born. Then we have postnatal energy, and that's energy that we get given after we're born. So that's food, drink, water, food and drink, etc., and air and all those kinds of resources. But before that, we get given this prenatal energy, and this prenatal energy I was taught that it wasn't replenishable, but I personally believe that we are able to replenish it to some degree, not ultimately, but that's where the whole concepts of longevity come into it, or immortality, which is really longevity in the human sense. And so once we understand these concepts, then we can fall back into our natural lifestyles and understand what the key is to, and that's being centered and being focused. Because as soon as we go out of our center, then we're starting to potentially overwork, overuse, leak, or lose energy. So it's about staying within ourselves. And that's what I notice in my own personal experience with, I would say, women, is that when you're with a woman, is actually sometimes you notice when it becomes really easy to ejaculate is when you've really already given yourself to that lady. So it's pretty much done. You're already given everything to her. You just love this person so much. You love them in some ways more than yourself. It feels like you've gone outside yourself. You've externalized. You're no longer centered per se, and that's instant. The leakage takes place. So the ejaculation itself is already done because you've mentally already opened the portal for that leakage. So then physically it's just going to happen when the act takes place. So the whole idea is about physically staying within yourself, and it may take some practice to be able to achieve that as a man. Now,
what would be some of the physical practices that can build this longevity?
So for men, well, I was just going to say quickly, but the difference between women and men's leakage of that energy, I mean, maybe it's not the best word or term to use. Where that energy is used is probably the better word. Men is every time with ejaculation, you know. Women lose or use very minimal amounts of that prenatal energy with sex, or almost don't lose any. That's how minimal it is. But then you see they have to take on a child for 9 months, and that's when they start to use that energy to put it into a baby, so it's worth it. But it isn't really worth it when you're shooting into a cup or shooting into the air, or that's what I feel. So that's an important thing to acknowledge, that that's you. Your energy is leaving your body. Million possibilities for a male. So the importance of retaining that as much as possible is key. And pornography and certain other practices and ideas pull our minds out of that context to program us to think that it's opposite.
We need to give it as much as possible.
Yeah, that's the key. That's the whole point of it all.
It's the successful. When you ejaculate, you've done, you've achieved, you've shown that you're getting pleasure. It's
and you can see it on both sides. You can see that that's the man's objective, and it's also the woman's objective, you know, because I've spent a lot of time with women that may not have studied this stuff, and that's the only satisfied or the only finish after that takes place. Otherwise, they just feel inadequate, awkward, or uncomfortable. Instantly, you can see that they've externalized already. So it's about staying centered. And also within the practice, you ask the question of what things to do. The key is relaxation. You know what happens when you get into the fight and flight mode while you're having sex, or even when you're not having sex. You know what I mean? You get into that fight and flight mode. Like, rushing, go. Well, of course you're not. You're out of control. So relax, slow down. These are Tai Chi principles as well. And take your time and be content and happy with ejaculating. And then you'll find that you may not ejaculate so easy, where a lot of people that are so nervous and upset, you know, I'm going to ejaculate. They're going to ejaculate, you know. So it's about keeping that balance, relaxing yourself and saying something. This is probably the most powerful and easiest thing that can be said right now. There's so many other aspects, but that's the best one. Relax, stay centered as much as you can. For me, it's about also within the relationship, because a lot of this stuff, it happens outside of the bed. It's actually not in the bed. That in the bed is like the tip of the iceberg to all of these other aspects, which are in lifestyle, self-lifestyle, or healthy relationship, or self-health. And that's about not letting yourself be lost, you know. So often I found myself, when I really fall in love with a person, I actually lose myself in that process. And that's what we often feel after many years or a few years, that feeling, that loss only took place because you only realize that it's lost now because they're gone. But actual fact, you lost it the moment that you gave it, which may have been a while.
It's an idea of the sovereignty in relationships, ensuring that we're looking after ourselves, ensuring that we have a full cup so that we can actually fill another's cup. It's also the idea of learning our partners and not always having a transactional relationship with sexuality. It's like when we go to the shops, I give you $5, you give me a packet of chips, you know. It's not always this idea. It can be really nice in a relationship to have sessions where it's like, I will serve you now, and it's your turn to receive. Because I know myself, I always want to go, are you having fun? Are you getting pleasure? Are you done? You know, it's very externalizing, and our attention is not really on our body. And sex can be an extremely healing practice. So if you're going through, just to bring it back to the purpose of this whole webinar, if you're doing these integrational practices, sex can be extremely nourishing, and we can receive it when we use it as medicine, not just as a dialogue for us to get horny and to have sex, but as actually a practice. Bring it back to the temple arts, where it's like, I would love to serve you right now. It's all about you being in your body. What environment do you feel safest in? Because when we feel safe, we can feel open, and we can actually tap into our body. So taking times to alternate with partners, whether it's a male or female body, getting the environment so that it feels comfortable, allowing that person to gently go into their body through breath work, through light stroking. Touch is really beautiful as well. And I would even suggest taking penetration off the table. It's like, there's not going to be penetration right now, because even if your mind knows it, it's really about tapping into, in the case of a heterosexual, you know, man and woman, or even woman to woman, the receiving partner, the feminine, letting the yoni know, letting the womb know, letting the labia, the cervix, all these different component parts understand that they don't have to brace. There's not this penetrative energy. Even if it's two women, there can still be that masculine penetrative kind of concept. Once again, it could be loving, like, oh, I want to fuck you really well. I want you to feel open. Let's just remove that theory or that objective so that we can actually just soften. And then it's great to work with the extremities. Don't rush our way to the genitals. Start with the feet, start with the hands, start with the throat, the neck, allowing gentle stroke and circulation. And breath is beautiful as well. Often a problem can be that our heart is not in our sex. Sometimes there can be a distinction between those two. So a really beautiful practice is doing heart-based breath while you're being sexually stimulated at the genitals to connect these two areas. So a simple heart breath would be a rebirthing breathwork technique of breathing into the heart. So what I'm doing, I'm opening my mouth. I'm allowing my breath not to go into my belly, which might maybe you'd think it would go down there because you do want to bring sensation for sure. That's another technique. You can breathe down into this area. That's great as well. But in this particular one, we're breathing into the heart, allowing us to cycle through the connected breath of the inhale and the exhale. So we're not having like an inhale, hold, exhale, hold. We're just sort of a panting kind of breath while having the sensation in our genitals. And we're therefore having sensation in two areas. We're activating the heart, we're activating the genitals, and as you said, we're relaxing. We're allowing this channel to completely open. And it can be really difficult sometimes to actually have that amount of sensation and pleasure and heart and circulation going through our body. And it's just soften, allowing every exhale to be a further surrender, a further surrender, further surrender. When we look at the male anatomy, circulation is a really important thing to maintain erection. And so in my mind, when I was younger, I always used to think, I need to be tense. I need to be rock hard. I need to be forcing this sphincter, this ring of muscles to hold in the blood there so it's turgid, so it's full. And the practice when we start to relax, what I've found in my personal practice is that the relaxing allows continued circulation. So, and if you're a partner who's pleasuring someone with a male anatomy, you can just reassure them, you don't have to rush anywhere. Just take your time, breathe, relax. When you feel the pleasure start to build, a way that you can dissipate the sexual energy is you can either through applying the PC muscles, the pelvic floor muscles, you can tense that space, or if you're a partner, you can actually stimulate space just by pushing. And it allows the release of the genital energy to actually then diffuse up into the body and just open and soften. And so it's the opposite of what you might think, but by actually releasing and softening, you can actually be harder for longer because the circulation, the sensation can continue. And then I would also say, just talking about the taboo subjects, anal exploration as well, in a very gentle, a very gradual way that's obviously totally consensual and respectful, but allow us to get rid of the connotation of dirtiness and for a partner to feel that everything of their body is welcome. I know that when my son was born, I was present at the birth, and there was feces, defecation, the woman was pushing out, and it's there, and it's a part of this area, our bowels, our urine, our feces, our ejaculate, it's all down there, it's all part of our body and juice. And a key part for me is allowing our partners and also our own body know that we're not disgusting. We are human beings. We are grounded animals. And so just being gentle and allowing the engagement with these parts. For male, also prostate health is another one. When we stimulate the area through the anus, the prostate gland can be massaged and released, and that can talk about longevity. That can also have more longevity in our health system. And it's all about circulation. Also, there are several G spots, not just G spots, there's H spots, this spot and that spot. So really exploring, through yoni mapping, through taking time to feel, not with a sexual objective, quite not medical, like sounds a bit too clinical, but curiosity. Taking time, how does this feel if I press the inner wall? How does it feel if I use my finger in this way? How does it feel if you tense or you relax? And really taking time in this sexual practice. You can also do it clothed. You might want to sit opposite. Timer going off. You might want to sit opposite each other. Simple tantric practices, you might want to hold each other's hands, and I can get the idea of energy going out of me and then up into you, and then out of you, and then into me, and out of me. And you can do it either way. It could be the other person going down and out, and then up into me, and down into you. And breath is an amazing way, because with breath, we can allow energy to come in and out. And it can be a beautiful concept of the cyclic nature, this exchange, and that's fully clothed. So it's a way to allow this connection, and I think that's a big part of this leakage idea, is it needs to go somewhere. But what happens when we can actually hold all our own energy, be remained in the core, to have our intention and energy go out to be witness of the other person, and the other person is activating themselves. It gets reused, it gets recycled, it gets passed, it's a closed loop, and it just can maintain. And I believe that through those practices, sex can truly be a medicine. When you do orgasm, it's not necessarily ejaculation. What we feel is that the energy actually just brings us to life. The energy doesn't drain us, it actually adds to our vital, our mana, our vital sort of force. And then it can be nice to actually channel that energy somewhere. So using, having a visualization with a partner, and when I orgasm, I'm going to bring that vision to life. If you read Dr. Joe Dispenza's work, really highly recommend his stuff. He's got a great correlation between the Western neuroscience and Eastern meditation. And he looks at the idea that when we have a heightened emotional state, it really brings the vitality to our mental visioning. So it's not enough just to sort of curate our inner space. We need to have these heightened moments to really bring the reality to this vision, really to attune ourselves like a musical instrument to a different vibration in the world, so that we attract, this manifestation energy, we bring it into us. So using orgasm as a directional energy to infuse our vision. You and your partner might hold this vision, and you really, as you bring this orgasm into the body, channel it up to the third eye, allow it to electrify this dream. And that's a beautiful way that we can actually go towards bringing about the reality that we really would like. Nice. Cool. Any other last bits on Tao 6? Or
maybe just a little bit about, and maybe an example about how we can embody the relaxation, a clear example of, so often in sexuality, excuse me in advance, the idea is, like to thrust and then usually pull, like thrust and pull. But the whole idea is to thrust and then relax, thrust and then relax. So you can see the difference instantly. We're only doing 50% of the effort, and that in itself will create longevity. So just the thrusting action and then relaxing, thrusting and relaxing, rather than this thrusting and pulling action, which you can see uses a lot more energy than we really need. So there's a clear example, 50% example, but if we maximize our relaxation, the amount of energy that we could achieve and get out of the whole practice.
And the other practice, we were chatting about this yesterday, the other suggestion you gave me, which I really liked, was focusing on the pulling out as well.
Wow.
So as a man, obviously there's this penetrative force of like, this is where the key stroke is, the in and the in and the in. And instead, if we gently enter and then have the energy pulling out, it's actually the opposite energy force is actually bringing into the man, rather than putting
energy.
The receiving, the masculine actually having this receiving energy. So that's another way we can swap it around as well.
Which creates that balance within the man, and then that should create the balance within the woman, rather than this being masculine energy, is sharing the love of masculine and femininity within each other.
Absolutely. And allowing this kind of idea of role play often can be thought of as kinky, but it can be a simple aspect of allowing the woman, and like I say, this doesn't have to be any particular body type, but just the one being receiving to flip over to be the one controlling or dominating and penetrating in whichever, an anatomical constellation you want to explore. And when we look at the stages of sexual penetration, it makes sense as well, where the cervix is like the gatekeeper. It's this later stage when we're actually going to open to this idea of actual making a child and welcoming into the womb space. And so if you've got a forceful penetrative energy, you're going there too early. It's like knocking on the door too early. What happens if we focus on the withdrawing, and we can then focus on the scooping up and backwards with the pelvis and actually activating the front wall as we retract and exit? And that's actually a precursor to trying to go all the way to the cervix. So it's actually bringing out, calling the energy, saying it's welcome, and gently allowing the woman to open, or the feminine to welcome in. And it's this concept in the masculine of like, oh, I've got to convince the feminine to let me in. I've got to, if there's an empowered sexual feminine, it will magnetize, it will draw, it will request, it will demand the entry and drawing you in. So it's like the gentle approaching of that before we enter the final stage of the sexual union, where the cervix is saying, okay, now let's go to this final stage, and then opening that depth where the penetrative force can be welcomed all the way into this womb space. For if you know, the objective is to finally create a child, or even just finally receive the full depth of the potential of sexual union.
And that reminds me of the yielding part that we spoke of as well, how, and that's again along the same lines as relaxation, you know, like that when you really want to orgasm, full body orgasm, or to have a full experience of bliss through this experience, is about that yielding, that increased relaxation beyond the point where you just become so flaccid that you fully give yourself to the other person, that, you know, like, you're not helping me lift your arm up, like this kind of thing. I'm actually lifting your arm up. You're giving me completely to the experience. And when we really relax and yield, then we are actually, this is what we say in Chinese medicine, that the more relaxed you are, the more circulation, the more flow there is. When you tense up, you're instantly restricting the blood circulation, the flow between the energy flow. So that means we're able to fully have that experience, not just within our genitals or in our mental world. We can fully experience that whole thing through yielding and relaxing on both sides, you know? Yeah, and sharing that, because generally that is a feminine energy. So for a man, it is really about letting go. And like you were saying before, the woman stepping into that masculine role and being in control per se, and following through with it. That trading of each other's energies is what it's really about.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. So I'm going to take over now and do a little bit of freestyling, talking about artistic creation. And I'll pause and reset that. Thank you, brother. We'll see you in a second. I'll start this. Keep our timer going. So we've talked about the sexual energy and this union of the masculine and feminine, and the way to exchange with these sort of things. And of course, it's a creative energy. So when we look into the other archetype that I want to talk about, is this idea of the poet, the lover, the artist, and allowing ourselves to author something. And once again, we're talking about this idea of surrender. A key part of artistic surrender is coming into flow state. So how do we get into flow state? When I look at writer's block, you know, this tension, like how can I think of a really fun idea, or how can I open up to my genius if I'm worried? Because the idea I have is like our genius is up here like this, and I'm here down here trying to access it. I'm in a different wavelength. I'm not actually correlating to the space of which my mind or energy is really at play. So if I just get my body, which is why embodiment practice is so useful, through movement, through being floppy and silly and being too excited, then I'm now at play, and I can correlate with the ideas. I can allow them to drop in. If you read the book Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, she's got this idea that ideas are like entities, and they choose people that they want to come and drop through. And if they don't get used or channeled, they might go to someone else. So it's really about becoming a channel and opening ourselves. And how do we do that? So when I teach freestyle, so it's like, you know, rhyming, rapping, performance poetry, spoken word, storytelling. When I teach freestyle, I look at a few different elements of the one practice. The first one is content. So what are we saying? So if you want to freestyle a rhyme, or if you just want to write a book, allow yourself to start verbal diarrhea. Just allow stuff to come out about the topic. We're not worrying about the musicality, about the rhythm, about the rhyme or the wordplay. We're simply worrying about the content. What are you saying? So let's just do a quick exercise now. I'm going to give you a word, and I want you to just take a minute to allow some kind of free flow. And you can pause once I give you the word if you're watching this on replay, and I'll give you an example of this. So the word we're going to choose just at random will be time. Look at my clock, time. So pause now if you're watching the replay, and just for 1 minute, allow yourself to ramble rubbish about time. And I'll give you an example right now. So time has the word I'm in it, I am. Time, these hands that demand that we keep moving forward. Time is like sand in an hourglass. I feel sad when I think about the sands of time because they run out. And time is cyclic. It goes around and around. We often have deadlines. That's a really horrible thing to think of, these lines of deadness that we're continually racing towards death. And eventually our time runs out, or our time has come. And that's got the idea of it's unavoidable. You know, they say death and taxes are the only things that are, well, they say the only thing that's, was it constant is change. But time is that marking of change. Time, the T in time is like, it reminds me of a hangman's, what do they call the stocks? It's real, so like T, time. I can imagine Big Ben being like an eye in time with this clock, and then the face of the clock is the eye. Time, me, what's my place in time? And memory, time past, time to come. Time is talking, it's ticking, it's tapping me on the shoulder. And we've run out of time. Cool. So there, it's all about the concept. I wasn't rhyming. I wasn't necessarily being poetic. I mean, it was kind of poetic because it's the philosophy of time and life, but just allowing stuff to come out, even if it's silly. Like you talk about socks. Socks. I have socks on my feet. Socks are good to put. And when I don't wear socks, my feet smell. You know, just allow rubbish to come out. A friend of mine, Miles Merrill, used to give this poetry exercise where he had an analogy. You know how you've got textbooks with blue lines on the paper, and he says, imagine the blue line is the water, and imagine your pen is a paddle, and you have to keep paddling, otherwise you drown. And so just really task yourself with a journaling exercise of allowing stuff to come out on your chosen topic. You might want to journal about something that's really important for you at the moment. But yeah, let's not be precious. Let's be silly. Like I said, the Fool is a great place. And this really activates this archetype of the poet, feeling in flow. You can imagine someone sitting across from you, and then you say, I'd love you to read me a poem. And immediately they get up in flow state and they start to soliloquize about your beauty or about the essence of their heart and intersectionality between the masculine and the feminine, or whatever it is. So it's being able to turn it on and turn it off, and not being victimized by flow and by inspiration. Because particularly if we want to work in the arts, we need to be able to do it when we want to. And also it's nice to have control over our own artistic flow. So that's the first part, is content. The second part that I look at is the musicality or the rhythm. The ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-da-da-boom, ba-da-da-da-ba, ba-da-da-ba-boom. So just gibberish, just scat, jazz scatting or whatever is a great way to do that. So let's just play this now. I'm going to give you a pattern, and then you're going to echo it back to me. So for example, I might go do-dum-dum-dow, di-di-di-di-di, and then you go do-dum-dum-dow, di-di-di-di-di. Cool. I'll give you one again. So it's boa boa be, boa be, boa be, boa be, di di wa, di di wa, di di wa. Cool. And what about this one? Do 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 boom ha, do 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 boom ha. You go. Alright, cool. So it's really simple, yeah. It's just basically the ability to talk in a flow and allowing it to be something that sounds a bit musical, and then we choose to talk about something else, and I want to know it's going to be okay when I have nothing important to say. Yeah, so allowing the time, speaking of time, to come into the delivery. And often dynamic shifts are so important. And this also correlates to integration of energy, where if we have a monotony in our life, if we keep revisiting the same thing over and over again, we become numb to it. So by allowing ourselves to shift, by allowing ourselves to be active when we've been passive, Or alternately, and just as importantly, if we allow ourselves to be passive when we're being overactive, it's a dynamic shift, a dynamic change. And our senses are attuned to change because that's where we recognize patterns. So in any aspect of your life, if you're continuing too long in the one vein, shift up your energy. So if I'm talking to you like this, then it becomes a little bit monotonous and you actually tune out to what I'm saying. Then if I really begin to change, and all of a sudden you realize that it's going really south or really slow, and then I just breathe and please understand this is what I want you to hear. Okay, so by shifting how low you are, how high you are, how fast you are, all these things are dynamic shifts. And like I said, we are programmed physiologically to notice changes and to recognize patterns. So use that in your creativity as well. Shift up your pattern and play. The last part I talk about is wordplay. So it's actually a mixture between the musicality and the content. It's a way that we feel the letters themselves. How do we chop and change the shapes? How do we feel the sound in our mouths? My mouth becomes round, and all of a sudden I feel like my head is a house, and I'm a hound walking around the house, protecting this mouth, because I'm worried that maybe, exactly. So I'm just going, wow. I'm just not necessarily making heaps of great content as far as the concepts. I'm not really being overly musical, but I'm just going to look at the wordplay and the significance and how to shift and chop and change and take artistic license to make up new words or spell things wrong and actually playing with the predictable. So I might give myself a word like model, for example. So what can I do with model? Model, McDonald's. Do models eat at McDonald's? The odd fools, oddful, oddful, others. It is the odder, oddity, goddity, giddity. I get really giddy, uppity. I get in the saddle, galloping, gullible, Gulliver's Travels. Trivels is a trivial, a vial. You are vile. I have a vial of virility. It's an elixir. Oh no, shit! It's an laxative. Am I elastic band? What is your bandwidth? The width, the warmth, the wid, going forward, going backward. I'm a warden. I'm protecting the back and the front, the front, the lint, the kint. What's that? The flint, the Flintstones. Yeah. So there you go. That's wordplay. It's allowing the lateral thinking. It's allowing the sounds themselves to lead you forward on the path. The ward, the wid, wad, backward, squid, squad. Don't squander it. Squinder, the kinder kid. I'm in Tinder, flipping my fingertips. You just allow the sounds to lead beyond the thought. And then the thought can take over. And then the musicality drops in and you ride the melody. And then the wordplay drops in. So that's the way I get into flow state. So I'll just wrap up this little section with a summary. Drop into stillness and then start to allow some movement. Letting go of the control. And then start with some music. Play some music, do some dancing. And then allow some verbal diarrhea, so something comes out. I don't care what it's about, just allow it to come out of the mouth. And just allow it to just go blah, 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 blah. No significance, allowing yourself to purge these words. Blah, blah. I like turds, like verbal diarrhea in your diary. Where are we? Where we were. And I'm not sure that I am aware. Am I aware, or am I a werewolf? Is there proof that I'm actually in the wilderness and I'm building it and I'm abandoning it? I'm unhanding it like I'm on a bicycle riding without hands. Can this be really safe? No, it's very dangerous. And all of a sudden we are no longer strangers with our inner spirit now, inner children. Children, and they ran, and are they running? Sometimes I feel like I'm sunning my tummy out there and I'm naked like in a nature strip, and maybe I'll be perverted because you'll see my genitals. But actually in the details we find that there is God in the details. Is it the male or the females? Are these nails scratched down your back like cats? Like we are at it in the attic like two rats that have just eaten a lot of poison, and we're feeling that these are our last minutes, and I want to get into it because I know in any second there's some kittens are going to come up and rip off my fucking face. Rip off my face, rip off my force, the grip of my horse as I'm galloping, sitting back in the saddle. And I feel like a king, realizing that I would give my whole kingdom for a horse. I would give my whole house for a bedroom. I'd give away the bed if I could lie on your body. I would give away my body if I could know that you would receive it. Do you believe this poem on my lips? Let it sail like a ship and land on your shores. Cool. There you go. There's some freestyle. Hope you enjoyed it. And I hope, if nothing else, you just received the transmission of me being in a flow state. Please play. Please allow yourself to give voice. Please startle yourself with complete abandon and allow it all come from the sacral space. When you breathe, feel it, exude it, juice yourself. Allow that mojo to come up into you and be fascinated, be curious, be riveted to the content, because your audience or your lover or whoever you're talking to will see your fascination as you are not referring to something that's dead, not pre-written. You are creating in the moment. And that is the luxury of not having no plan, of spontaneity, is because it's alive in the moment. And if nothing else, we human beings understand the spirit of another being ignited, and we witness it and we are reminded. So allow yourself to step into spaces where you can make mistakes and just go. Because it's the fool, it's the clown who gets out there and falls over on the ground and grazes their knees and then gets up laughing, that gives permission to everyone else, because we're all dying to create and express and witness the universe and translate it through art. So that's my piece on creativity, on playing the archetype of the poet and the lover. May you be activated in the sacral. And now I'm going to hand over to Mataora, and he's going to take you through some Qigong and Tai Chi movements so you can have a direct physical practice to integrate some of these further energies. Over to you, brother. I'll bring a camera back a little bit so we get more space to move. How does that look? Lower down? Yeah. Back a bit. Okay.
Maybe you can move it into zoom into that. Hands above head as well.
Mm-hmm. I can just tip it with you. I'll just be the cameraman.
Okay. Okay, so this is Chinese yoga, or they also call it the I Ching Ching. So stretching or ligament tending or ligament and muscle washing technique. So generally start off with our feet together, hands at sides. Please join in if you have the time and the space. Bring your attention to your breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. We're going to do 3 breaths. Usually you can do this up to 5. And I'm going to do them fast, otherwise it will take a while to get through all of these movements. So separate the feet, link the hands together, and stretching up nice and high. Could hold the breath for quite a while. I mean the movement through the breaths. Extended mountain pose. Now we're going to go over to the sides after a few breaths. Down to the right side first, might be reversed in the camera. Elongating and stretching away, keeping this foot planted. Planting it right down on the ground rather than letting it rise, and extending and reaching over to your side, while keeping your body into a nice flat plane rather than leaning over or leaning back. After a few breaths, breathe in, stretch up nice and high. This form is a really powerful form. It's not the easiest form, but it's definitely one of my most enjoyable. And the powerful thing about this movement, these movements, this form, is that it opens up all meridians and all aspects of your body, all the different channels. Right now we're really working on the flanks, the sides, opening up the liver and the gallbladder areas, the spleen and stomach. Just do a few breaths here as well. I'll do one. And then everything soften and relax and return all the way back to your stomach. Separate the hands at the sides, separating the fingers, spreading them as much as you can, drawing the shoulders down, clenching the toes and the buttocks, breathing into the abdomen. So linking the hands behind your back in the same way. I'll just turn so you can see. So linking the hands the same way, but behind. Taking a nice deep breath in. Relaxing into the motion. Checking in. So we're going to take the foot out 45 degrees this time. Again, going to the right first, breathing in. And folding forward. Keeping your back as straight as possible. Again, anchoring the back foot. Of course, maybe you're not able to go as low as this, but that's okay. Go as low as you can, to your limit, always to your limit. And if there is any discomfort throughout the practice, ease off or do something else. And breathing in, extending away, going over to the other side. I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. Always good to feel the body opening, feeling the energy channeling through your body. Perseverance is always key. So I've stretched a lot of areas of the body by now. And take a nice deep breath in back to center. And folding backwards.
Maybe you can also show that one on the side profile so we can see it to the camera.
Relax more and more into it. Back to center. And forward beam. So I've done the 45s. Now we're going to go straight down the middle. Again for 3 to 5 breaths. Then walk the feet out 2 to 3 shoulder widths apart. So I usually just place my head straight down onto the ground. But if that's difficult, you can place your hands in between your 2 feet. And then try to place the top of your head in between the diamond that your hands form. Like so. Just to give you that extra balance, stability, and security. Try not to let your head come around like so, or tuck your chin too much. But keep your head as aligned with your spine as possible. I'm going to bring my hands back around. By squeezing your buttocks, pressing your chest, tucking your chin. I know this may seem difficult to a lot, but if that's all you have, is that all you can do? That's fine, that's perfect, that's okay. I've been practicing this for more than 20 years, so it takes time to reach this point. But by all means, you will reach it if you keep diligent in daily practice as much as you can. So if that's all you can do, that's completely fine. Next one is generally the most intense for a lot of people, and I will keep it this way. It's a good position. So normally I would slide straight out from my hands behind my back. But place it good firm, palms on the ground, shoulder width apart, and then taking a nice deep breath in. And then as you breathe out, you can walk your feet out or just let them slide directly out, going down as much as you can. If you want to place your elbows down, that's good too. A little bit tight today. Taking a nice deep breath in and out. And I'm going to bring my hands where they generally would have been. And then walking your feet together. So normally I'll press forward, but we can walk our feet slowly together from where we were. Walking slowly together, heels, toes, heels, toes, heels, toes. Now we're coming back to our forward bend, because the forward bend stretches so many meridians in our body. It's the most powerful stretch. But this time as we do it, we're going to, if we can't touch our toes, our objective is to reach our toes. Once we eventually reach our toes, we can touch the ground and push our palms flat. Once you find that your palms can go down, then you can start to bring them out 90 degrees to your toes and walking them out. And then once you get to your maximum limit there, then you can begin to wrap and hug yourself and really curl around. This one's different. Look at your belly button. But again, if that's all your limit is, then that's a good stretch. Be proud of yourself. Be content with your position. After a few breaths, breathing in and out. Separate your feet. Coming back to strong mountain pose. Then we're going to finish off. You usually do 3, but I'm just going to do 1. Breathing in, raising the arms up the outside. Above the head, bring the palms together, not linked. It's the palms with the fingers pointing to the sky, and relax down. Breathing out. So do that 3 times in reverse. Bring the palms together. Raise them up in front of the body. Keeping the shoulders as relaxed as possible. Breathing in. Slight pause. Turn the palms away. Breathing out. Really relax down. Back to your center. Few deep breaths, concentrating on your lower dantian or your lower abdomen, your lower center. Feel the expansion again, a few breaths. And do more if you feel that it is difficult for you to focus. It is difficult for you to stay in that space. Do more breaths to make sure that you get your home run. Because that's what it's all about, is returning to your center. So this is a very powerful practice that dates back right to the times of India, and their integration into China. So yeah, it's a Buddhist practice. Thank you, everyone.
Smashed it. Thank you, brother. Yes. There's the wisdom of Qigong, of Tai Chi. We are now at almost a 2-hour mark, but we started a bit late. So I'm actually going to continue on from there. Our recording's still going strong. So I'm going to reposition it there. And there's 2 more sections we're going to do. I'm going to take over now and do some of the acupressure release relating emotions to organs in our body. And then we're going to wrap up with anything else that you wanted to bring in, brother. We'll do 1 more session after that, and then also talk about daily ritual and daily practice. So, yeah, we're on the home stretch about it. Stay strong. I want to talk about the body as it relates to spiral practice, which I've trained in. And this is basically bringing together kinesiology, which is muscle testing, in with the chakra system, which is a really great roadmap to different aspects of our body. I use it all the time in many different ways, and I'll indicate a few ways we can use the chakras to activate and integrate a lot of energies. And it's also looking at the scale of consciousness or awareness. This idea that a wavelength can have an emotion and a consciousness level attached to it. The simple concept being that when we're low vibe or we're more dense, it's kind of more the pain-based emotions. And as we get a higher frequency, we get into a lighter bandwidth and we get sort of up. We get more happier, we get lighter, we get more inspired, and all these kind of things. And as we obviously are denser, there's more friction and we can't go through walls. We, engage in the material world. And as we get a higher wavelength, we can actually penetrate the physical world and we can allow our energy to have a greater field of influence. So that's the idea, is that we want to release things, we want to integrate things, we want to raise our vibe, raise our consciousness so that we can have a bigger expanse of an effect in the world externally, but also we can welcome more of life back into ourselves and have a greater scope of experience and expression. Imagine if you could be angry and happy. Imagine if you could play the beast and the king. Imagine if you could feel the dense heaviness and be consistent and, very disciplined, and you could also be frivolous and yin and floating around and being spontaneous, opening up that capacity to hold all things. And a key concept with the spiral, so this is, when I talk about the spiral, I just mean this modality invented by Dane Thomas, and it's bringing these practices, the kinesiology, muscle testing, the chakra system, the scale of awareness, and also the spiral nature of spiral dynamics, which is this path of evolution as an individual, as a society, whatever it is. It's this way that we integrate the lower levels and come to a higher level, bringing it up and including it as we grow and expand in different ways. So there's a chart that we use, and it's broken up into the 5 Chinese elements of fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. I'm just picturing it as I go around. And then there's the central and the governing meridian. And looking at the movements that Mataora was just showing us, own it yourself. Whatever makes you feel like you're activating these meridians. And so by meridians, we talk about the energy channels in the body. Anything, any breath and movement coupled with intention to open and activate will really help your energy to dissipate any lodgements, any stuckness, and flow throughout the body. So see what your limits are. See how your body wants to move. Yin yoga is a great practice where you stretch and then you soften, you breathe into the tension, because our body can hold a lot of emotion locked up in our joints and our muscles and our organs. So as we breathe into them, as we soften, it's actually a way that we can allow the integration. So experiment with yourself in some ways that feels like all of your meridians are being run with energy. A simple way to do this is through the acupressure points. So I'm going to teach you them now. When we look at fire, for example, at the top of our chart, that is here, coming under our ribs. So if you want to play along at home, we'll activate all your meridian channels. So just get your hands and your fingers and activate under the ribs, just rubbing this area here. And this is your fire meridian. So this relates to your small intestine, it relates to your heart, it relates to circulation and sex, and it relates to triple warmer. Triple warmer being, in Chinese medicine, this part of our body that dictates movement of warmth, of energy, of fluids, all this kind of thing. So you're really activating this up to the solar plexus and coming up towards the heart. So sometimes if we feel lust, if we feel, here, let me get the chart so I can read it to you. If we're feeling heart-based emotions, it's a matter of just intuitively feeling any stuckness. Sometimes as well, you might just feel something just in this area. Just trust yourself, just move and activate this area here. Some of the other emotions might be lightness, service, lust, creativity, arousal. There might be a self-esteem issue, pride, sorrow, hurting, overexcited. They're quite fiery, you know, whether it be overexcited, whether it be erratic, whether it be passionate. It's this kind of fire space. And what we do is we don't try and repel it. We don't try and get rid of it. We feel it. So when we're integrating these energies, a big part of it is allowing, not judging it as right or wrong, but actually just opening our capacity to hold ourselves, to allow ourselves to experience the full array of human emotions. So this is the fire point here. Beautiful. And your ribs up to your solar plexus. The next one I'm teaching you is our earth channel. So the earth is the spleen and the stomach, and it's found by tracing your way on your left-hand side, tracing down here to your lower ribs. Feel the two lowest hanging ribs on the side here, on the left-hand side. And just trust, you're just going to feel in, you know, it's your stomach point, it's your earth. And these emotions are a little bit different. These are things like disgust, or if you're like overly empathetic or sympathetic, worry, criticism, being unreliable, feeling of rejection and envy, doubt, emptiness, also harmonies in there, which is nice. So for me, this is more dense here. This is earth. Disgust is often when it comes up. Sympathy, empathy, criticism. Just feeling into your stomach point. Once again, it's on the left-hand side, tracing down from your ribs, feeling the lower two hanging ribs, and just rubbing into that point. So the technique is feeling it in the body and activating the point. And the meridian is a line that goes throughout the body, but these are just points. Like if we're doing acupuncture, we put a needle in this point, and it basically sends a signal throughout the channel, which allows this release in these organs. The next one is metal, and this involves our lungs and our large intestine. So things that you might feel in your metal is grief, guilt, regret, vulnerability, self-worth, hanging on, reason, mercy, dogma. They're more kind of metal, they're more clanging, kind of abrasive kind of feelings. And there's two different points with your metal element. The first one is the lungs. So if you just come in from the shoulders to your outer chest here, and it's lungs, so deep breaths help. And once again, you just feeling the grief, feeling the regret, letting go, and activating those lung points. Now, obviously, I'm moving through these points with some pace, but feel free to revisit these and really just allow the experience. And for me, it's about learning our inner state, learning the compass of our energy body, because the intention is to come to a place of release. You don't have to cure yourself in one go, but we just feel until we unlock something, until something drops in. You might have a realization, you might have a sensational shift in your body, of your energy body, and just go, cool, that's nice. It's a little unfolding. It's a little bit of an improvement. The next one is the large intestine point. We're advised not to do this with women who are pregnant because it can bring on early delivery, but it's basically this point in the hand between your thumb and index finger, that the meaty part of your hand on either hand, and just allow that to be activated. So this is things like dogma, guilt, spite, release, self-worth, hanging on. So if you're like hanging on to something in life, feel a bit of spite, this is a good way to let go on either hand, and that being your large intestine point. Next one we're looking at is your water element, which is your bladder and kidneys. Obviously, the water comes through there. It's about detoxing. This space feels a bit more anxious to me. So this is fear, anxiety, phobia, sexual insecurity, creative insecurity, also irritation, impatience, inadequacy. So it's a bit more quivery. So if you're feeling these kind of emotions in your body, it's water element. And that's released through the kidneys. So tracing your collarbones down here into the center of the chest, just dropping about 1 centimeter down from your collarbones. and just activating your kidney points. Also, let's not be too academic about it. Your kidneys are down here, so you can just rub your kidneys as well. With Qigong, sometimes we rotate our trunk, our lumbar, and allow our hands to tap the kidney space. You might just want to bend over and breathe into your lower back. That is our kidney points that are activating. The next one is bladder. Also pretty self-explanatory. It's down here where our bladder is. So we simply come down to the pubic bone and then come up slightly into the softness, and we just activate that point. Once again, breath, sound, and movement, BSM. Allow yourself to do it. Sometimes you burp. Just then I burped a little bit, which can be like a physical release. Sometimes we yawn. It can be a mental release. Really allowing what needs to shift to come through this breath, sound, and movement. The next one we're looking at is wood. That's our gallbladder and our liver. If you think of wood, it's the pent-up energy before it combusts, before it ignites through fire. So it's things like anger, rage, fury, frustration, transformation, distress, resentment, also impotence, repression, self-righteousness. These sort of things are trapped up in the liver and the gallbladder, which also explains why doing liver detox is so amazing. We haven't talked much about food as well. That's a whole other really important area. But things like sugar, things like dairy, things like also to some degree meat, wheat for me also really has a big effect. Finding out what we have allergic reactions to, finding out what makes us aggravated, bringing our body to an alkaline state. So if you want to Google alkaline diets, making sure we drink enough water, making sure we're flushing out these organs like the liver, doing a liver cleanse, intermittent fasting. It's so important to have some sort of food awareness, to eat mindfully, tune into your stomach when you're eating. Really just take a moment to breathe. Take a moment to relax your stomach. Maybe your large intestine, your small intestine with your fire, and just open up these channels so when you're eating, you're actually open to receiving the food. Infusing your food with intention, whether it be a prayer or some kind of other intentionality, having gratitude for the way it's arrived to you, taking time afterwards to allow it to absorb into the body, doing enough cleansing so that the villi, the micro fibers in our intestine where we have to absorb food, we have things called intestinal plaque. And this can also bring about a lot of emotions, when we fast and we do flushes. I'm bombarding you with heaps of information right now. I'm trying to fit it all in. But you can do a Himalayan crystal salt flush or an Epsom salt flush, which is magnesium, by doing it 1 tablespoon in 1 liter of tepid or room temperature water, drunk first thing upon waking, drink the entire amount within 10 minutes. That can help flush the system and really be a big part of dislodging things that are building up in us. But please, of course, I'm not a medical professional. Consult a doctor if you need to. Really listen to your body, Google and research this, so take self-responsibility. That's my personal practice, what I do. Usually about once every week or 2 weeks. If I get sick, I really like to flush out in that way. And it's a way to just clear and to cleanse and allow myself to start to absorb all the nutrients that my food wants to give me. So coming back to our wood element, this frustration, this is on our liver point. So under the chest on the right-hand side, our breast, we come around, and it's between our ribs up here, quite high on. So following that chest line around in between our ribs. And with this one, this is our liver, this is our wood. Our rage, our frustration. So movement, sounding with this one's really great. So freeing up that energy is really beneficial. And then finally, we come to our central and our governing meridian. So we talked about this one before with that breath, that microcosmic orbit breath, where you breathe up your spine and down the front. And this is bringing that spirituality and the humanness together. So our central is here under the bottom lip, comes down through our vital organs to our bladder point at the bottom, near our genitals. So just really rubbing that point. And what's associated with our central are things like shame, self-respect, confidence, peace, overwhelm, vulnerability, support. Support's a massive one. So if you're not really feeling supported in your life, you might just want to rub here and just hold here and just really feel this vulnerability and your humanness down your front. Then coming from around here, from your tailbone, up your spine to your crown, over and ending here between your top lip and your nose is your governing meridian. And so we just rub this point here. You might want to trace with the other hand and feel it coming to your tailbone. And this is things like integrity, purpose, truth, trust, and also humiliation, false pride, arrogance, enlightenment, responsibility, and success. So these are quite our grandizing, our spirituality, this sort of crown space here. So really feeling that aspect here. So yeah, so many points in our bodies which can really activate, depending on the emotion that feels trapped in your body after doing your energetic work. These are all points which can really help integrate. If you want a skeleton key, one size fits all, we can just also activate this point here. So just taking your finger, your index and thumb, and just lightly placing it on your forehead, and just allowing that energy throughout your system just to drain right there throughout. You're really integrating universal stress release. Really nice. I also really recommend conversing with your organs. Just literally speak. Oh, hi, tummy. Oh, hi, womb. Oh, hi, lungs. How are you going? And then, we're great weavers of meaning, storytellers. We can pretend. Just imagine your lungs hearing from you and receiving it, and then going, hi, hi. And then it communicating up to you, and allow that language with your body, that body language, to start to be activated. Start to listen to yourself. And I'd really recommend doing this, if you're engaged in this webinar and you want to try it this week, do it once a day and just talk to different organs in your body and let them talk to you. And we realize that we are literate beyond our language. We know, we feel, we can sense if our organs are happy or sad. And when we start to acknowledge that channel of recognition, of communication, the language gets louder, the voice gets stronger, because it goes, oh, wow, you're actually listening to me, whether it be your somatic mind of the body, your subconscious mind beyond our awareness, however you like to think of it. There is an intelligence, there is a body wisdom. And so tuning into that is a great way to know how to exercise, how to eat, taking care of yourself, giving yourself massage as well. Obviously, this is a 2-hour webinar. It's not enough to teach you reflexology, acupressure, all these things. But the basic communication is learn for yourself, reach, touch your own body, breathe, listen to your organs. And a foot massage is a great way to do that. It's linked to a lot of different organs. Feel, press in, activate. Because ultimately, if there's circulation, there's a chance to release and detox, and also to gain the nutrients and open up to all the things that want to harmonize and balance within our body. So you're just feeling that, feeling the feet right now, massaging my soles of my feet. And now coming into the chakra system conceptually. So those are our elements, those are our acupressure points. This roadmap of our chakras are an amazing way to integrate so many things. And it can be used as a manifestation channel as well. It can be used as a way to life plan and work out exactly what you want to do in life. And the way it works is this. Let's start with the top one. Let's start with our crown. So our crown is our purpose. Our crown is the spiritual body. It's what's beyond us. It's this understanding, this level. So anytime that you want to integrate something, if you're overwhelmed, if you're lost at sea, you just come to, what's my purpose? Why am I doing this? Then we come down into our vision. We come down into the third eye space. We come down into this area of, this is what it could look like. If I started to integrate this, I could be a different person. I could have a different partner. I could live in a different house. Really start to envisage it. When we come down to our throat, we start to ask, how can I express that in the world? How can that actually reach the world? And how can I be seen? How can I be heard? When we come down into our heart, it's what networks am I a part of? How can I connect What's my openness? But also, how can I organize? How can I create systems to allow all these things to flow together and to really harmonize and work well? When I come down into my solar plexus, it's about my individual goals. It's about my firepower. It's about declaring my boundaries. What are the policies I want to put in place? These are the rules. These are the standards I want to hold. And about my individual ability to go out and carve my own path. When we come down into our sacral, it's about community. It's asking, well, what team can help me achieve this? What am I a part of? Also my creativity, my sexual energy, my ability to be the author of something. So coming into this sacral space. And then finally, coming into our root chakra, the question is, what physical actions am I going to do? How am I going to embody this? What's my action list? What things am I going to do to ground this intention? And so as you can see there, that's this chakra system, but it's also conceptually a great manifestation channel. So I would say, as far as embodiment goes, if you can work out a simple embodiment practice that goes through all of these points, it's just like a trawler. You're going to go through and you're going to get everything. So a simple activity might be something like, come up here for a sec. It might be something like, I'm going to stand here, breathing up through my nose into my crown, opening up in service to all, bringing in, scooping it in, coming down to my eyes. I might scrunch my face, open up, stretch. I might come here and really open up the energy in my jaw and my throat, breathing. I might then come down into my heart. I'm just freestyling this. I'm making it up, but it's conceptually tracking through everything. Come into my heart. Oh, how can I bring my masculine and feminine together? How can I connect with things? And I might come in here, into my power, activating my goal, having my resolution, my intention, pushing energy down, feeling it dropping into my hips, feeling my scooping up of the energy, holding. How can I be a basin for the water of my emotions? I come down into my root. How can I open up? How can I really ground this and feel it land? So there's a simple action which I could go through in my body, which is going to actually activate all my chakra points and enable this full flush and full integration of all the different levels of my body. So it's an amazing roadmap. It's an amazing integrative process. And I think the whole summary of this webinar is about when we engage in practices that are energetic, we are releasing literally energy, charge into this system. It needs to go somewhere. When that energy comes into our body, it often results in emotions. So emotion is the physiological response to these experiences and ideas mixing in this body. It can result in hormone release. It can result in chemical changes. And the reason that's so important is because mind over matter, this concept that our ideas, which result then in our emotional chemical state, will actually affect the matter itself. When you look at the book by Dr. Joe Dispenza, he talks about becoming supernatural. He talks about these chemicals come to the cell wall, they come and engage with the nucleus, and they are signals telling what the condition in the environment is. And this directly goes in and activates our DNA and our genetic codes in different ways. So the genetic code is a potential. You may have this kind of hair color or that kind of hair color. You may be predisposed to diabetes or cancer, whatever it is. It doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. What results in your body is an expression, a particular outward manifestation of the potential of the genes. So as we take time each day to cultivate a glowing gratitude state in our body, as we take that state and we superpower it with heightened emotions, with joy, with pride, with orgasm, with fire, with passion, with determination, we can activate an inner state. Those chemicals can be changed. The different chemicals that then come to the cells and to the atoms then activate a different expression of our genes. And so we can literally change matter through our intentional mental state. That's just another point that I think brings home why it's so important to protect our inner state, to understand that we need to value this inner state. And if someone comes and upsets us, is that action, is having a vase broken or is being cut off in traffic more important than this inner state, which is literally going to program the manifestation of my potential? So really protect that inner space. And when we feel these emotions, don't restrict it. Don't always have to be happy. Allow, soften, open, so we can actually be fed by this energy, emotion, and come to a self-authorship of your own body. Learn through touch, learn through movement, sound, intuition in the sacral space, through stretching, through breath, and through deprogramming of our association with particular identities. Be willing to, like I said, to be the beast, be willing to be the poet, be willing to be the warrior, be willing to be the king, the queen. And through allowing these archetypes to be in our body, we open up and we can hold our anger and our lust, we can hold our anxiety and our success, and we can become a more fully rounded human being. And that I think is the ultimate goal, is to be able to hold all of ourselves, so that regardless of the energy shifts you go, regardless of the identity deaths that you navigate, this one vessel is going to be able to hold it all. And regardless of where you're stuck, which element is stuck, which organ is stuck, you've got practices which flush the entire system through breath, movement, and sound, through stretching, through acupressure, through playing characters, through vocalization, through embodiment, through tension and release, through your sexuality, through your creativity. All of these things act in the one way to allow flow in the system, and trusting that balance and diffusing and harmonizing is a natural result of any flow. So thank you for being with us. I'm going to invite Mataora to close with me here. Thank you so much, brother. We've been on a massive day together. We did play fighting workshop yesterday, and we camera there. We did an art gym session today. We did actually the live webinar before this. So much respect and love for this man. So yeah, just to bring it into a close, there's so much we didn't even cover. Like there's lots of food, medicine stuff you were going to bring in. But yeah, just in closing, I wanted to hand over to you to bring through any final things you think are really important, anything you maybe didn't cover you wanted to, just in relation to obviously embodying energy shifts and overall vitality.
I suppose the most important thing to say, which you've already said, is basically that one of the subjects that we spoke about, we could have done the whole webinar on, but we wanted to give a nice, beautiful package so that you're able to tap into all the different areas for you and see how that works out for you, how you can deliver that. In other words, keep on researching, keep on looking into it, as in this, it's so deep, all of this knowledge and information, and it doesn't happen overnight alone. It happens over many nights. Yeah. And to keep up the practice of being centered, because once you find that your center, then from there it all just basically unfolds. Basically, you don't need to go and search for anything. That's search and seeks you out. So once you're in your center, then it's pretty much done. But stay open so that you're able to receive whatever it is that is required for your next step in life.
Beautiful. Absolutely. Yeah. That openness is so important. It reminded me of a quote by Kyle Cease. I'm not sure if you guys heard of him, but he said that our heart can't be broken, our expectations can be broken. And so it's when we tune into what is, we don't mourn what we lost, we're not frustrated that something didn't happen that we thought should happen. Those are expectations, and they're a false energetic assimilation or projection of what we think has to happen. And when we compare it, as a comparison to killer, what is to what we think should be, that's when the dissonance and heartbreak can happen. But when we tune in with openness and surrender and softness and presence, come back to our center, be self-fulfilling, that is the space where we realize we're not heartbroken, and there's so much to be in love with, to have gratitude for. And that's the ultimate release that allows this healing, allows this integration. So yeah, I hope, if nothing else, we've equipped you with the self-reliance to explore your own energy, explore all 5 bodies, the spiritual body, the mental body, the energetic body, emotional body, and physical body. And I would really encourage you to work out a daily practice. We've got lots of charts. We're talking about the Maori chart. We're talking about the Chinese medicine chart. We're talking about my own chart, which I'm about to mention now, is what I believe an integrated martial art consists of. But we can replace the word martial art with personal practice, whether it be yoga or martial arts or any way in the world, your Tao, your way in the world. That is a spiritual practice. I would encourage you to find something you have reverence and devotion for. It's a physical practice. What's something you return to and you are brought to life by every single day? Something, and I recommend that at the beginning of the day, we come from the space of dream and we come into the embodiment of each new day and we meet it through our body. What is your creative art? And I really hope that you're being encouraged in this practice today to allow that to flow through you. You don't have to even show people, but it could be drawing, it could be dance, it could be song, it could be painting pictures, it could be sewing clothes, it could be cooking. It doesn't really matter, but I really encourage you to find a creative art. What is your healing art? And this can be very simple. We all have a way that we respond when we want to heal someone. Some people are good at touch. They might want to hug someone. Some people are good at listening. You just listen. Other people are good at being funny. Other people might have an intuition of like massage or points. You might be, through alchemy and herbology, you might use food to heal people because you understand the nutrients. You might pray for someone, and that can be your healing art. Like, it doesn't matter, but I think it's so important when we are confident that we are good for other people. We trust ourselves to be medicine for each other, and we allow ourselves to go with our inkling, and of course have humility in the feedback. If it's not helping them, let's stop that. But often there will be a genius, there'll be a natural inclination of how we can actually soothe and hold other people. So that is your healing art. And then finally, the fifth element from my martial art is, what's your form of service? How can we give? How can we know that we're contributing and a part of something beyond ourselves? And the beauty is, when we serve, we are served. Imagine a room full of 100 people all looking after themselves. You've got one person looking after you, and that's you. When you serve the other 99 people, you are open to 99 forms of help. So it's actually not just selfless. It's like a good way of being selfish. You know that when I serve, when I give, I receive. I'm a part of something. I have self-respect. And most importantly, I open my inner ecosystem to the world beyond me. And that is where we can receive the wealth. We open our channels. We serve. I'm here. I'm giving. Because we can be causative about that. When it's all about what I can receive, I can't tell what Mataora is going to give me. I can't tell how many people are going to buy this ticket to this webinar. That's beyond me, and it makes me hungry. It makes me victim. Please help me. I need something from you. When I say, no, I'm going to put on a webinar, I'm going to show up 100%, I'm going to give, I'm causative. Or if I'm on stage, I'm going to do a good show. I don't know how many people are going to come to the show, but I'm going to give something. That enables me to be in a causative position to engage that cycle. And there will be a cycle. It's natural symbiosis, together living, where I give, it will receive. And it's not always obvious. You know, a tree drops a seed and a bird eats it and goes and shits out the seed somewhere else. The tree doesn't always see the other tree growing, but there's a natural distribution that happens. So it's about trusting syntropy as opposed to entropy. Syntropy is the natural inclination of life to support life. Entropy is the dissolution and the divergence of energy. And things get weaker in entropy. And then syntropy is the convergence. It's coming together. And it's the more natural way that the world is. We support each other. We might die, but that gives other life to something else. You know, there is this natural cycle of supporting. So yeah, serve, give, be causative, and you will in turn receive in this greater system. I'm done. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really hope this has been of value to you. Keep tuning into Art Gym every week. And I would love to hear back on your implementation of these tools. I'm going to go back because there's been so many points we've covered. I'm going to create a worksheet so you can follow along. And I'd also love to see how you have hacked it, how you have appropriated it, how you have edited it, how you have made it your own, so that you know that you are authoring your own health practice and you have something that you are the source of, not referring to a textbook, not referring to us. There's no gurus. It's just about you reclaiming the right to your energy and your body and your creation of your reality. Cool. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you too, man. Awesome.
Yeah, it's better.
So much.
Jim, Batchless, Mataora. Thank you for that.